Okay, Mormonism, I'm going to get my notes out so I don't have to strain my neck here. The Mormonism psychologically conditions people to mentally flee from, trivialize, or condemn facts, truths, or realities that do not support the LDS Church's foundational claims, doctrines, and teachings. And I imagine that all of us have run into that. So we have an LDS family member or a friend. We've been online. We've maybe read Dr. Southerton's research on DNA evidence. We go to the Mormon family member or friend and say, hey, look, there's this paper or this article in the science section of our newspaper, or I just saw this interesting television program on the Discovery Channel, and it's talking about the fact that Native Americans are genetically linked to people who came from Northeast Asia. And what's the reaction? In many cases, it's either ignoring, mentally fleeing from that piece of information, that truth that you've just presented, or a trivialization of it. We don't really know. The scientists, they don't really know all of the facts, or the condemnation. So if you've ever confronted a Latter-day Saint and their reaction is defensive, you're attacking the church. You're attacking me, you're attacking my people, you're attacking my religion. That is a condemnation of just the information that you're presenting. And of course, it's an emotional, defensive reaction. But what's happening psychologically in Mormons' minds, in their psyches, is you are presenting them with faith-shaking information. And if that first domino falls, then all the other dominoes are going to come tumbling down. The house of cards is going to be knocked over. And so for people who are still psychologically enmeshed, embedded in Mormonism, they can't go there in their mind. And I imagine that many of us can relate to that in our personal experience during our process of psychologically leaving Mormonism. That perhaps someone presented us with some information, or we saw a website and we just wouldn't go there, or how many times have you heard Latter-day Saints say, well, so-and-so presented me with a book, maybe one of the Tanner's books, and I just knew it was of Satan. I couldn't look at it. I would not touch that. I wouldn't even open the front cover, because psychologically, they just can't go there. But what's happening, this is even more fascinating, is I'm convinced that every Latter-day Saint, at least those who live in Western society where we've got television and the general level of scientific knowledge is fairly good, is that they know on a deep level, they sense, they know that there are just things about Mormonism that are not right. And all of those doubts that have popped into their mind over the years, they've taken those doubts and they've put them into a mental closet and closed the door. And after a while, the door of the mental closet is bulging and they've got to lean their shoulder into it to keep it from bursting open. But that is a process of diminishing one's awareness and betraying one's mind when a person does that. Mormonism psychologically conditions people to betray their rational mind in order to maintain their irrational, nonsensical religious beliefs. Again, it has to be done for psychological reasons, and I'll get into that just a little bit later. The cognitive dissonance, and that's a term that we've heard a fair bit this weekend, and we see it on the RFM website, that many Latter-day Saints experience is the uncomfortable tension that comes from holding two conflicting thoughts simultaneously, or in their mind, sort of back to back. So the Book of Mormon is a true record of peoples in the ancient Americas, which is congruent with the church's teachings, at least historically. That seems to be shifting. But DNA and archaeological evidence does not support it as a true, real history. Okay, on to self-esteem. I'll read this from the screen because I didn't get this one cleared off. To what extent does the quality of our self-esteem affect the quality of our lives? Completely, profoundly. Your self-esteem is the foundation of your ability to live efficaciously. It affects the aspects of your life, and this is by no means a complete list. It affects your relationships, your family of origin relationships, your marriage, other relationships, your schooling, and your job, your career, your financial situation. Self-esteem affects your civic lives, involvement as citizens. If you feel that, if you have the self-confidence to get involved in the political process in some way, then you're going to do so. You feel passionately, you feel strongly about some particular issue, and you're going to step up to the plate and you're going to do that. But if you don't have the self-esteem, if you don't have basically the concept in yourself, if you don't trust yourself enough to even get involved, even on the periphery, then you're not going to be going there. Self-esteem affects your social life, your recreation, your self-judgments, and other thoughts, the mental tapes that we run through our minds. Self-esteem affects our beliefs about what we can accomplish with our lives, our emotions, our sexual lives. So it has, self-esteem truly is the foundation of ourselves as an individual, as a person, as a being. And the degree to which Mormonism affected our self-esteem is a function of our age when we began to be psychologically conditioned by it. I confronted my mother, who joined at the age of 29. I went and visited her this past summer and got into a discussion about just the amount of psychological pain that Mormonism had caused me to experience. She couldn't relate to it whatsoever because she had been raised in basically an agnostic family. She had been interested in churches, religions from about age 12, 13. Her mother had allowed her to attend the Anglican church and check out some other churches. So she was able to individuate herself in that regard. She had her own heartfelt desire to go check out other religions, churches, and she was able to honor that wish and go and do that. But of course, in the Latter-day Saint home, if you have a 12, 13-year-old child who says, I'm kind of interested in the Unitarians, what are they about? Or some other organization. The response is, unless there's a fairly liberally minded Latter-day Saint, is you are a member of the one true Church of God. Thinking such thoughts is displeasing to your Heavenly Father. How could you possibly turn your back on the sacrifices of your Mormon ancestors? And on it goes. It's a function of the age. She couldn't relate because, of course, she hadn't been psychologically conditioned by Mormonism from the early age that I had, and I imagine that many of you have. I'd like to ask, how many people here were born into the church? So most of you. How many were introduced to it sort of age 1 to 6? A couple people. 7 to 13 to 20? Very interesting. Say in your 20s, 30s, 40s? And older than 40. So the vast majority, I'd say sort of look like about 3/4, maybe 80%, born into the church. So all those ideas, all those spiritualistic ideas that have been a part of Mormonism from Joseph Smith's day and have been passed on down through the generations, went into psychologically conditioning you. And if you were raised in an LDS family, you were getting that indoctrination not only every Sunday and on primary night and once you got into seminary, but in your LDS home environment, you were getting it on a daily basis. I sat down and tallied up how much formal indoctrination I had gone through from age 3, which is, I think Sunbeam started at age 3, to the end of my 18th year. It was about 5,000 hours of formal, systematic indoctrination in Mormonism. And that's a heck of, that's like 2.5 years of full-time work. Yeah. So that, you might want to just think about that in terms of your own experience.